6 left into K, 4 right of a crest line. Into 6 right and K, 3 left and tightens.
Dead. Just tell them to stop. All the ignition powers, everything on it just won't run.
Nick to service, come in.
No, push.
Nick to service, come in.
Nick.
The car has stopped in the stage. All the fuses and everything is in, but it's just stopped dead. We have ignition, but nothing else.
Spectators pushed the car out of stage 6, but it refused to go any further.
Colin, what happened?
Just this electrical problem, whatever it was, just completely stopped the engine now.
How far into the stage?
About a K from the end.
And the engine just died, or what?
Yeah, just stopped, wouldn't start again.
We had reports of you pushing the car, is that right?
Yeah, we pushed it out to the end, but then we couldn't get it going.
It's proving a very, very tough rally. Already lost Carlos as well. What's happening?
It shouldn't be. I mean, obviously we've got a problem in the wiring or some electronics in the car. We couldn't find out what it was.
How's this going to affect the championship?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it now.
Normally run in damp, often wet conditions, this year's rally saw very warm, sunny weather, which resulted in thick, choking dust. For Richard Burns and his Mitsubishi teammate Tommy Mäkinen, the 2 retirements were excellent news. Mäkinen, the reigning world champion, desperately needed a win to boost his points tally. The battle in Formula 2 for 2-litre, 2-wheel drive cars was just as thrilling as the struggle at the head of the leaderboard. First to go was the Renault Megane of Portugal's José Carlos Macedo, which arrived at service looking a little lopsided. With big brother Colin already on his way home, Alistair McRae was keeping the family flag flying. Cette, the reigning Formula 2 champions, had cars for Erwin Weber and Harry Rovanperä, while all the local support was for Adrogilo Lopez in the Peugeot 306, who led the class at the end of the day in 10th place. Gustavo Treyes from Uruguay must have been delighted to be in 9th place in his Group N Mitsubishi. Monaco's Jean-Pierre Richelmy was 8th at the end of the day in an Escort Cosworth, over 2 minutes behind a privately entered Escort World Rally car, driven by Grégoire de Mébius from Belgium, which was 7th. Armin Schwartz, in the only remaining Works Escort, had climbed back to 6th position and would be well placed for the start of day 2. 5th was the Subaru Impreza of Rui Madeira, who was trying a little too hard sometimes to please the crowds. Richard Burns, fresh from his excellent second-place finish in Kenya 3 weeks before, was 4th.
Long, 60, easy right long, to flat left long, to crest 50, fast left minus.
Freddie Loix was 3rd in the Toyota, although he was over a minute behind the leading pair. The winner of this year's Swedish rally, Kenneth Eriksson, now carried the hopes of the Subaru team. With the daylight stages drawing to a close, he was locked in a 2-way battle. His disappointment at retirement in Africa now a distant nightmare, he was sharing the honours of fastest stage times. Retirement in Kenya plus disappointment in both Sweden and Monte Carlo meant that Tommy Mäkinen still had to rediscover the kind of form which saw him become world champion. In Portugal, though, things were different. This was the Mäkinen of old. Eriksson and Mäkinen were now engaged in their own private fight, which culminated on stages 8 and 9 when Mäkinen grabbed the lead and then strengthened it. The difference in body language at the next service area said it all.
Tommy's really put the pressure on, hasn't he, in the last few stages?
No, it has been the same pressure all the day. I mean, really, he has been very fast and he is in front of us with 5 seconds now, so... But we will come back.
How's he been able to pull out that time, do you think?
No, he's always very fast, and I've been trying as good as I could, and of course, especially on the 2 last one, it wasn't really any advantage to be first on the roll because it was a lot of sand as well, but Tom has been driving very, very well, and it will be a hard fight.
Is 5 seconds the sort of lead you'd hope for at this stage?
It's not so much. It's still 3 more stages today to go, and those famous faffes stages in the dark, it's I'm afraid little bit at the moment it's very quiet, and there was already some dust on the last stage, and in the dark it's really difficult if there's some dust.
Running first on the road meant Ericsson would have a slight advantage on the day's final 3 stages. With the daylight went Mäkinen's challenge. Ericsson took a massive 19 seconds off him in a little under 34 kilometres. Once again, it was the Swedes' turn to lead. This was a contest we'd seen before. The longest day of the rally, if not the entire championship, drew to a close. Ericsson had turned a 5-second deficit into a 14-second advantage. He arrived at the final service area of the day, safe in the knowledge that he would begin day 2 in the lead.
I think, to be fair, Tommy had a little bit of dust on the first one in the darkness, but as far as I understand, on the 2 last one in the dark, they didn't have any dust. So I don't know. The car handles very nicely, and I had a good run over there.
He did very well. He was really fast.
There seems to be a bit of a repeat of Sweden.
Yes, it's very, very tight between us. Well, we'll see tomorrow where we are. For sure, I have to drive flat out.
What is tomorrow going to be like? Is it going to be harder or easier than today?
No, it's always hard, but good fun as well.
Ericsson and Mäkinen then locked into their own private battle at the head of the leaderboard. Loix's Toyota, the Mitsubishi of Burns, and Madeira in the Subaru rounded off the top 5. Championship. From Lusada, it was back up into the hills. The next 3 stages were repeats of the final 3 from day 1, when Ericsson had taken so much time off Mäkinen. In the daylight, Kenneth didn't have the same advantage. Even though he was quicker than on the first run through, this time it was his turn to lose precious seconds on each of the 3 stages. Was literally flying.
Aukeaa. 3 hyppy täys. 100 tuplahuomio. Nyppy alas, heti pitkä paha vasen. Aukeaa.
Tommy'd now made up all but 1 of the 14 seconds that had separated him from Kenneth at the start of the day.
In terms of your own ability, are you right on the limit?
I can't say right on the limit. It's I've been concentrate very carefully and of course going flat out, but maybe still I could go bit faster, but of course it makes more risk as well.
Tommy has an advantage now for the next 4 stages, and maybe I have an advantage in the stage in the nighttime.
So it's going to be backwards and forwards for the rest of the day?
Hopefully I can stay in front, but that's my target, but it will be very difficult now.
How long can you hang on with this pressure?
I'm feeling very cool in the moment, and I feel that I can hang on up to the last stage if it's necessary.
Armin Schwartz, back in 6th place, seemed to be a different man. He'd actually been faster than Ericsson on 2 of those 3 stages, although 5th placed Rui Madeira was still an awfully long way off. Richard Burns was grimly hanging on to 4th position as he and co-driver Robert Reed approached the famous jump on the Fafe stage, a magnet for thousands of spectators.
Here, big jump, 30 right max, 17 70 over crest, fast right minus, long, 50.
Sadly for Burns and Reed, their rally would end soon afterwards. The Mitsubishi parked up with a broken gearbox.
Richard, what happened?
At the end of stage 15, we started getting a bit of a noise in the transmission just under power, sort of whining, and it was okay on the road section, and we went into this stage. First gear was extremely noisy, and then gradually towards the end of the stage we lost first, second and third. And then just on the short piece of road section here, fourth, fifth and sixth are all stripped as well, so we can't go anywhere.
That took pressure off Loix, who was driving with an ever-increasing confidence and maturity.
82 wordt 50 rechts 63. Om 50 links 80 couperen. En 50 links 82 asfalt.
Freddie, there's an incredible battle in front of you for the lead. Who are you competing with today?
For the moment, nobody. Normally Richard Burns, he was in 30 seconds behind me, and I was a little bit pushing to stay in front of him, but now he's out of the rally, and I think now the most important is for me to learn and to still make these stage times.
While Loix might have been able to relax a little, there was plenty going on further down the leaderboard. In Formula 2, the Seat of Harry Rovanpera spent much of the day locked in a battle with the Volkswagen Golf of Alistair McRae. The young Scotsman eventually gained the upper hand and would end the day in 10th place overall, 50 seconds ahead of the Finn. They both trailed the Peugeot of Adrugilo Lopez, though. He led the class and was 7th at the end of leg 2. In Group N, Gustavo Treyes had slipped back. He ended the day in 9th place, just 7 seconds behind the identical Mitsubishi of Germany's Manfred Stoll. Excitement of a rather more unwelcome nature resulted in Masao Kamioka remodelling the rear of his Subaru. Jean-Pierre Richelme's relatively unknown in world rallying. His performance in Portugal, though, was impressive. He was 5th after the second leg. Rui Madeira wasn't so lucky. He'd been setting some respectable times and had been elevated to 4th place by Burns going out. Then a spectacular accident on the 5th of the day's stages saw his challenge effectively come to an end. Nearly 30 minutes were lost. The Subaru All-Stars mechanics were faced with a major rebuild at the next service area. A broken windscreen was the least of their worries.
Very difficult to ride corners. The rear of the car going up, and we roll one time for out of the road, but we need the help of the spectators, and after 30 minutes and very good work of the spectators, we put the car on the road.
Besides Richelme, there were 2 other Ford Escorts in the top 10. Gregoire de Mavius was enjoying the power of his new World Rally car, while the factory car, driven by Armin Schwartz, had set some superb times during the second leg, although he was suffering a little from poor visibility.
How much can you actually see when you're driving in dust?
Nothing at all. I mean, it depends how big the dust is. On the last one was quite bad because the sun was coming against you, and the dust was there, so it was really bad.
Freddie Loix was enjoying a trouble-free run in the Celica, although the same couldn't be said of the man ahead of him. Kenneth Eriksson had been losing time to Mäkinen all day, but darkness would bring further disappointment for the Subaru team. On this occasion, the night would become a little too dark.
Break 80. Han stannar, bil stannar.
During that time, was a clock ticking in your brain at the time you were losing to Tommy?
Yes, of course. For the first half a minute or a minute, and then I thought this will be bad. And when I listened to the engine, I saw something was really wrong. So I was nearly sure when it happened that I couldn't restart it. But we tried for 20 minutes really hard with everything, but it was impossible.
Tommy Mäkinen was a man with one objective in mind. Even before Eriksson's retirement, his performance had been electrifying. Over the day's 9 stages, he'd set the fastest time on every single one, and to turn a deficit of 14 seconds into an advantage of 32. With Eriksson now gone, Mäkinen would take a massive lead into the 3rd and final day.
I was really driving flat out this last stage, and I thought it's still good competition between us, but I'm so sorry for Kenneth. It's rallying, it's nothing to do.
Mäkinen's lead was now 3 1/4 minutes over a slightly surprised Freddie Loix. Ford Escorts made up the remainder of the top 5, driven by Schwartz, Demavius and Richelme respectively.
Designed to be a winner. Subaru.
I wish that for just one day Dad couldn't tell a lie.
Was it good for you? I've had better.
In the next 24 hours, Fletcher Reed will have to tell the truth, even if it kills him.
I can't lie!
From Imagine Entertainment.
What's up, Fletcher? Your cholesterol!
And the director of The Nutty Professor.
Like the new dress? Whatever it takes to focus off your head.
Jim Carrey.
Everybody's been real nice.
Well, it's because you have big...
Liar, liar.
The morning of day 3 and a dramatic backdrop for the final 9 stages was provided by the rolling hills and mysterious valleys of the area around Arganil. In the past, the Rally of Portugal has been won and lost in these hills. Was this year's event keeping a last-minute surprise in store for the unwary? Mäkinen's Mitsubishi would run first on the road. With such a comfortable lead, it would take a disaster to prevent Mäkinen from taking his first win of the year. But as Sainz, McRae, Burns and Ericsson all knew, disasters can and do happen on this rally. Behind Tommy, the rest of the top 5 were taking no risks. Jean-Pierre Richelme finished in a superb 5th place. Next was Grégoire Demavius in the first privately entered Escort WRC to finish a round of the World Rally Championship. Third was Armin Schwartz, who kept intact his 100% record of finishing and scoring points on every round of this year's championship.
I don't know how we do it. I mean, we just try to get to the finish, and each time we worked out, and so I'm more than happy with my 4 results.
Second was Freddie Loix, his best result at the highest level of the sport. With Demavius, he was also the second of 2 Belgians in the top 4, something of a record.
Do you feel as if you really earned second place?
Okay, it's not a real second place, I can understand it, but okay, even with the top drivers, I did some good time.
The leaders might have been driving to finish, but a real battle was going on at the bottom end of the top 10. Lopez had been leading Formula 2 since the first day, but Alistair McRae was determined not to give up. With the finish almost in sight, McRae squeezed past to take the F2 win. But the day and the rally belonged to Tommy Mäkinen. Out of 30 stages which counted, he'd been fastest on 19 of them. At last, the Subaru's stranglehold on the championship had been broken.
How do you feel to have got the first win of the year?
Very good. It's really what we need. It's very good for our team. We really need. I need it, and everybody needs.
Mäkinen's winning margin was over 4 minutes from a delighted Freddie Loix. Ford were equally pleased. 3 of the top 5 were Escorts, even if only one, that of Schwartz, who finished 3rd, was registered for the Manufacturers' Championship. After 4 rounds, the drivers' table has its 4th different leader. Mäkinen has a 5-point cushion over McRae, followed by Sainz and Schwartz for Ford, and Ericsson, who shares 5th place with his Subaru teammate Piero Liati. Despite Mäkinen's win, Subaru still lead the series for manufacturers, with Mitsubishi having moved up to within 7 points and Ford on 23. A well-deserved win left Mäkinen and co-driver Seppo Harjanne to sample the sweet taste of victory. The unseasonably warm weather meant that the crowds which witnessed their performance were even larger than usual. Few, if any, left disappointed. Even the early departures of so many of the leading drivers hadn't dampened their legendary enthusiasm. From the crowds of Portugal, the championship will next be played out in front of an equally enthusiastic Spanish audience for the Rally Catalunya, where Sainz, the local hero, will be looking to repeat his 1995 victory. Last year's winner, Colin McRae, though, might have slightly different ideas.